All right, welcome back again to another episode of the Contrarians. This is going to be one of our regular episodes where we talk about we have a guest in this case, and we're going to be talking about favorite Cinderella album. Our guest is none other than Sean Kelly, guitarist extraordinaire. Coney Hatch, Helix, Lee Aaron, Nelly Furtado, classical, a lot of cool stuff going on. Sean, what's happening out there before we get started?
Oh, just chugging along here on a frosty Toronto morning, but feeling good and as always, looking forward to talking music with you, my friend.
What is it? What is the latest kind of project that's got you all excited?
Well, right now I'm deep into interviews for my second book. I'm writing a book that's tentatively called Hair Metal for Hipsters, Reclaiming the Art and the Excess of 80s Rock. And I've been spending my week talking to a host of luminaries and getting my own perceptions challenged, which has been very interesting, and finding out a lot of cool stuff. And I'm actually talking to Jason McMaster from Dangerous Toys right after I talked to you, and then Mark Slaughter, and having a great time talking with these guys. And it's so much fun because you go back and you listen in a different way.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. And well, that makes sense for this episode as well, because we're going to be talking some Cinderella. So we've got Sean on to talk about a contrarian choice for favorite Cinderella album, but I'll just give you a little bit of a history of the band to begin with. These guys were formed in 1982, Philadelphia. We've got Tom Kiefer on vocals. It's a love it or hate it voice. A lot of people really think it's this gargly Rod Stewart type voice is almost too extreme on this guy. But some people love it to death. But frankly, even if you like his voice, it can be a little fatiguing listening to him because you're worried about his voice, which you should be, because he ended up having a lot of vocal problems, which caused the band to have a lot of hiatuses. He's had vocal hemorrhaging and stuff like that. We've got Jeff Lebel on guitar. Sadly, we just lost him. He died recently, as did their touring keyboardist Gary Corbett. Literally the day before, I think, like within one or 2 days of each other. Eric Brittingham on bass and Fred Curry on drums. So we had a very consistent lineup the whole time. Although the funny joke about this is Fred Curry barely plays drums on the albums just for various circumstances. But no. So this was a band that was very successful right from the start. They came out with the Night Songs debut. It came out June 9th of 86. It was gold almost immediately, platinum almost immediately, double platinum in February 87. So that's still almost immediately. This was a big band right away. It went triple platinum up into 91. So it took a little while, but still, this was a very big band. It had a really kind of cheesy album cover, which is not good for, there we go. Yeah. Which is not good for the, in terms of the reputation of the band. Like, the record itself is quite a bit better than the album cover, but that album cover has that look of the cheap album covers that they would do in hair metal times, where you just stick the guys on the covers with a bit of pink or whatever.
The last of the pastels.
Exactly. And the clothes, but the clothes, kind of started a trend, at various times in hair metal. The clothes sort of exploded and started trends and sent people in different directions. But on this one, you had Jody Cortez on drums. They got the opening slot of the Bon Jovi Slippery When Wet tour, and that helped them out. Nobody's Fool as a single helped them out. Second album, Long Cold Winter, July 5th of 1988. That went gold and platinum pretty much immediately. Double platinum pretty much immediately, and triple platinum up into January 97. So this was a big band all along the way, and they were doing well. Cozy Powell plays drums on this one, which is pretty bizarre. Little mellower, people say blues here, but a little mellower. Debut is pretty heavy. Debut almost feels to me a little bit like a throwback to the early days of hair metal, the 83 and 84 sort of sound. But anyways, we get on to the third album, Heartbreak Station, November 20th, 1990, produced by John Jansen. It goes gold and platinum fairly quickly. Here we've got possibly an even bluesier and mellower sound or whatever, but they're still doing well as a band. Hair metal is about to implode, whatever you want to say, with the likes of Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Nirvana kind of breaking big in around 91, Guns N' Roses going into one of their dramatic hiatuses kind of thing. So there's not a lot of impetus keeping this music alive, but Cinderella comes back for a fourth and final album, still climbing in 94. They're still on Mercury. It doesn't certify at all. It's produced by Dwayne Barron and John Purdell. Sounds kind of like the other ones. Kenny Aronoff is on drums. So their drummer for the entire time is still not the drummer, but he's the drummer on all the tours and all that. And then they go into that range of many years where they're on again, off again. They're on some of these big package tours. Tom Kiefer does a couple of solo albums. I think, what is it called? Rise, the 2019 album. Really, really cool album. I would almost say it's my favorite of all this stuff. It's really, really well put together. A neat album. But there you have it. This is an odd band in that, a 4-album catalog. How many bands have 4-album catalogs? It's kind of strange. And they all do really, really well, except for the last one. And oddly, their greatest hits album, isn't certified, which I find kind of odd because it's still on a major label. It's a greatest hits. It's called Once Upon a ... Yeah. And doesn't certify. But that's your brief history. And I'm going to turn it over to Sean, who's going to tell us his favorite Cinderella album and why. Take it away.
Martin, thank you. My favorite Cinderella album is undoubtedly Heartbreak Station.
All right.
This album means a lot. Oh, there you go.
CD. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So comes out at the end of 1990, right? Like it's kind of like this is the apex of hair metal, but we know the trains are coming down the tracks. Maybe they see it coming down the tracks here, Martin. Track on the back. I don't know. But this record has nothing to do with hair metal. The sound that was associated with hair metal. Maybe a hint of reverb left over on the decaying drum sound, but that's it. And although you can make an argument that Kiefer's voice ties it somewhat to that sound with that raspy falsetto, he mixes it more so on this record with his natural voice, which is a very smooth tenor. But even his raspy stuff, like I said, it's either a love it or hate it voice. To me, it's just another texture. It's like he either grabs the Telly Les Paul or he sings in that raspy falsetto. And to me, it's a texture that really works and resonates. Like you said, it's produced by John Jansen. And he worked on a lot of the cooler late era hair metal records, like Love Hates Wasted in America. I love the Faster Pussycat records he did, TSOL, Dirty Looks. Interestingly enough, he cut his teeth working as an engineer with Eddie Kramer on early Hendrix material. And he goes back as an engineer working with like everyone, Supertramp to Procol Harum. So this is a guy who's got engineering chops based in the 70s, but he's had the experience of working with a diverse pool of artists. And I think he brings that to play here. The record was recorded very appropriately at Bearsville Studio, just outside Woodstock. And lyrically, this album often harkens back to what we've kind of come to know as a spirit of Woodstock, the idea that music provides freedom, freedom of expression, the dawn of a new society, right? And that seems to be something that resonates with Kiefer. It even resonated on the earlier lyric songs like Gypsy Road. And I think we see this come to full fruition on this record. So great place to make an idyllic 60s, 70s inspired rock record. The mix by Steve Thompson and Michael Barbiero. I love these guys, their mixes from GNR to Tesla. They always seem to get it right elementally. They can do a lot with a little, and they can do a lot with a lot. And this record, Heartbreak Station, has a lot in terms of color palette. You've got electric guitars, you got bass, drums, acoustic guitar, but then it's complemented. Actually, I'm not even going to say complemented. It's elevated with dobro, lap steel, pedal steel, mandolin, mouth harp, an actual horn section who performs as a group, the Memphis Horns. You've got organ, Ken Hensley from Uriah Heep on organ, clavinet, authentic gospel, Southern soul background vocal arrangements. They're not just punching out choruses here. They're crucial to the actual compositions. And the only case I can think of where I love congas on a rock record, I love the use of congas on the two places where they occur on this record. I love them. I'm not a big fan. Somewhere in the 90s, we got a little conga crazy. All of a sudden, these things started coming out. Love it on a Santana record. Maybe not so much in my hard rock, but that's a personal choice. I think they really got the sequencing right on this record. To me, the first 7 tracks are essential. And then you got tracks 8 to 11. They're excellent too. It's an album that bears a stamp of quality on all aspects, from composition to performance to arrangement to the engineering. I think they just got it right. And it's an album that's a masterclass in terrace dynamics, where you're just like in classical music, before instruments really had a lot of volume, before things could get louder or softer, the instruments kind of projected at one basic level. They used to add the elements to create the dynamic, and this album does that very well. As opposed to, like a lot of bands, they'll stack guitar tracks, the same guitar track, they'll double it. And it maybe as a solo element feels bigger, but it kind of can make the record sound smaller because it takes away the focus from other things that are happening in the mix. But I think the dynamic applications here create sustained interest and momentum. And the songs are always given enough sonic space and dynamic space to move the narrative forward. We're not talking here lyrically, we're not covering a vast array of world issues, but this concept that is consistent throughout, this concept of freedom and an elevation through music, I think it's really sympathetic with what's happening musically. All right. The energy in the songs to me comes from judicious use of guitars. We know that, Kiefer, he spent his first publishing check. He just went out and bought a bunch of vintage guitars, right? He was on a mission to have his palette ready. And he's a guy who goes out and plays those guitars on tour. And he'll even have his guitar tech throw him the guitars. I'm watching 58 Les Pauls go through the air. And I guess it adds to the drama, but my God, please don't drop it. They never do, though. They never do. And if you ever played with a Les Paul, they're heavy, man. I give that guy credit.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the songs. So More Things Change starts off, to me, that's a great introduction to this record because it references Cinderella's past, but also, it's a thread of continuity, I guess. It has that primary slide riff based on that classic Robert Johnson. It's a classic, right? That's just there for everybody to take and borrow from, and they do that quite well. It's the same, very similar to what they did on Bad Seamstress Blues, Falling Apart at the Seams from the first record. But they know how to leave space, and they do it right off the top, because if you put Kiefer's voice on top of heavy guitars, nothing's going to come through. It's just the harmonic overtone series that's happening there. It wouldn't work very well. That's why you often hear them drop down to a mute. When I was a young boy, dun, 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 dun. They leave room for the vocal, and they do that here too. It's that call and response thing where your attention's getting diverted to the vocal at the right time. Because his voice, I said that before, it shares a similar timbre with a warm, tube-driven, overdriven guitar. And the lyrics, they explore that classic theme. The world's out to screw you. Yeah, everyone's going to screw you. They're out to wipe the smile off your face. It's tough out there, folks. But, there's always a little smidgen of hope. All we need is a miracle to take us away from the pain. And I think that this record was, serves as a little bit of that miracle. I know this is my comfort record. It's my hot chocolate record. If I'm feeling crappy, I'm feeling pretty crappy this morning about things that are going on in the world right now. I'm going to put this on. I'm going to feel a little better. And I think that comes from a sincere place. I don't think you're right. 4 albums worth of this stuff, hitting the same theme over and over again without meaning it. And I do find he has a way of making it relatable, but also interesting. So let's move on to the second song here. Love's Got Me Doing Time. I love this song because to me, it blends that kind of Toys in the Attic era Aerosmith interlocking. What do they call it? The art of basket weaving, Keith and Ronnie there. It's got those interlocking guitars, but it marries it to Memphis horns, like real stack style horns, and New Orleans funk, like the meters, right? Can I show you a little something on the guitar, Martin?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's got this, That's a very funk type lick, right? Like Joe Perry would take a lick like that.
Yeah.
But then there's this other idea. It gets into this polyphonic thing. Little darker sounding. But underneath it all, it's got these little interlocking things. And like I said about the congas, I love how the congas, there's so much rhythm going on. It's like, okay, man, this is building. Throughout the song, where do you go? takes the song out beautifully. So all this rhythm just makes that song very, very interesting. I mean, Love's Got Me Doing Time. Okay, yeah. I mean, lyrically, I mean, I've heard that story. I've seen that movie, right? But it works, and it works with. To me, it's all about the interlocking rhythms, and these guys just do it right. And especially at a time when hair metal records were getting so layered, we were using the technology to build vocal after vocal after vocal, guitar track after guitar track, the same thing to make this kind of wall of sound impact. This has lots of space, but still more than enough energy. Shelter Me, first single. It's weird. I hear a lot of people complain about this. It's like, why didn't they come out with more things changed? That was more what Cinderella was about. I think it was a shot across the bow. I think that was it. People saying, no, we're going with this. This is a shot across the bow for critics wanting to lump them in with all the hair metal bands. And really good. What I like about this song is the use of borrowed chords. They borrow chords. So I'm gonna bore you again here. Because most of their songs are in this key. It's a good key for his voice, right? Everybody needs a little place they can hide. I won't sing anymore so we don't get pulled off YouTube, but you get the idea here. These are all songs that belong to the key. It's the 1-4-5, the simple 3-chord rock. Then we have this. Some it's a needle, some it's a pill. That chord is a lift. It doesn't belong to the key area. It takes us somewhere else for a second. But then we go back to the key area. Some it's a needle, some it's a pill. Some people wave the Bible because it's giving them a thrill. You never go too far outside, but he takes you outside enough to sustain the interest. Others point the finger if you don't like what they see. You live in a glass house. There's one of those borrowed chords. Don't be throwing rocks at me, we all. And then we're used to choruses that lift and go higher. He goes back down. We all need a little shelter. So I love the variation, and I love where it takes me, and those borrowed chords help that. So I think that's something you don't hear in a ton of hair metal bands, but you hear more so on this record than in previous Cinderella records. Yeah, and man, it's got a saxophone solo. Was this the last rock song that was a hit, like a top 40 hit that had a saxophone solo? Was it the guy with the big muscles? I don't know. I like that guy, but the guy from the Lost Boys. I in my mind, that's who it was. Probably wasn't. But it's got that. It's got the piano. I don't think Little Richard played the piano on the record, but he's in there in the video. It's got all these kind of 50s accoutrements. And what I really like too, it's, there's a million songs that take, pot shots at politicians and religious figures, but there's something here that feels, because of the music, feels even more I called it like a shot of Southern comfort. It's like I felt when I was young and I heard those things, I was starting to become aware, around 17, 18, you start to become aware of the world around you. I think Kiefer does a good job of always kind of, he'll lay out the hypocrisy in a situation, like the check out Mr. Politician in a suit and tie, and when the doors are closed, there ain't nothing he won't try. Meanwhile, Mr. Medicine's treating his best friend's wife. That's a great lyric, colorful, real, evocative images. Yeah. Tipper led the war against the record industry. She swears she saw the devil on the MTV, all that stuff. That's pretty typical. But to look into the cabinet takes more than a key. I thought it was just clever turns of phrase. I thought made it a cut above those types of songs. Anyway, I'm a fan of that tune. And mouth harp. I don't hear too much mouth harp. Boom, boom, boom. Really cool. Now, move on to Heartbreak Station here. To me, this is a really, really great take on the Skynyrd influence. Kind of an updated take on Tuesday's Gone, a little Freebird, minimalist piano, really simple chords, but always, Kiefer's got that thing with the elemental riff. And he plays the low strings. That's a very kind of outlaw country, old school approach, playing that, Ghost Riders in the Sky type vibe. That's just all sitting within 3 chords, basically, but it sounds, makes for a great hook. And it's the first song on the record where we hear John Paul Jones come in as an orchestrator. And I think that getting him, John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, I think that getting him to orchestrate the strings on this really made those. It took the music to a different place than if you would have used synthesizers and played pads. Because John Paul Jones picks up, a great orchestrator will pick up on the things that are happening compositionally in the artist and echo them back, repeat them, and change the phrasing, have counterpoint, and that there's a lot of beautiful music that's happening in John Paul Jones string orchestration. Yeah, that's it. I think that was a good example of a ballad that keeps things compact and hooky. It's the exact same thing I love in Lynyrd Skynyrd ballads. Gets to the point, gives you a couple of things to chew on. You hear them a few times, and it becomes part of the vocabulary of the song.
Cool.
Now, you tell me if I'm going on too long here. I'm excited, so I might be talking.
Yeah, this is good stuff. Yeah.
All right, and this was fun, Martin, because we were talking about this before. Sick for the Cure, the next song. We had a conversation about rhythmic displacement. You know, when that thing, when you hear something, you're sure beat one's here and it moves. This song starts off with that. It's a great example. You think the cowbell's starting on beat one, but it's actually starting on the upbeat. And when the drums come in, it throws you off. To me, that's a great production and arrangement choice, because the song really is just a take on Honky Tonk Woman. Bam, bam, bam. And they even go, bam, bam, they even take the lick. Like, it's no secret what we're doing here. The little energizers like that rhythmic displacement thing, are what make records special. And we do, as listeners and fans of especially like blues-based rock, we want to hear devices. We come for those devices, but we want to hear the slight variation that doesn't take us out of the comfort zone of that, but still keeps our interest. And that does it. Great lyrics about freedom here. What is it? It's another great Kiefer lyric about how we think we know it all when we're young, but time shows us otherwise. Another theme. And I found that certainly be true in my own life. The freedom, the elusive dream. Maybe I'll head down south to New Orleans. Wouldn't pay no taxes because I wouldn't have no means. Give me a comfort similar to Who's to Care If I Grow My Hair to the Sky. Like those songs, because I was pretty sure I was going to be a big failure in life. I wasn't connecting with the path I was supposed to go down. I'm going, okay, I'm terrible at math. I don't want to do that job. What am I going to do here? And I can't possibly be a musician. That's impossible because I'm in North Bay. You know, like at the time you're thinking these things, right? How do you get to a big city? It seems impossible. But he always seems to say, it'll work out. Just go for it. So I related to that. If the wind sets my sails, wind fills my sails, and I'm never going back again. I love it. Yeah. Now, the cornerstone of this record for me emotionally, and the one I get emotional even thinking about this, it's One for Rock and Roll. It's a very special song for me. And in a way, it lets me indulge in my own idealism of how things were back in the 60s. I was born on the dawn of a new society, and I feel lucky that my eyes could see people standing up and being who they want to be. The people made the music, and the music made them free. And if the road gets rough, I'll pick up my guitar and play. And it's always right by my side to help me on my way. All that stuff resonates with me. It's simple. And I don't know what the difference is, honestly, between something that's simple and something that's trite. I only know on an emotional level when it hits me. But definitely when I hear I don't need to worry about tomorrow and I ain't anticipating what's to come, I don't need to worry about the things I have not done. As long as I've got rock and roll, I'm forever young. I've truly lived my life like that. It's actually had that kind of effect on me. And I don't know, I don't remember hearing things that sincere and heartfelt on records in 1990. Like it was still pretty much, I'm going to have lots of sex with lots of women. And that seemed good too. Don't get me wrong. I thought that was a noble thing at the time, but really, I mean, emotionally, I think I connect a lot more with this. And musically, there's a beautiful Appalachian feel to this. They nailed that kind of early American mountain music, where you actually have that slow loping 1, 2, 1, 2 that's happening over, there's a banjo in there too. Does that kind of thing? Does the banjo? Once again, the interlocking rhythms and the feel is so great. The bass. Another band who did that effectively was Aerosmith on the Pump record, where they actually brought in somebody who'd studied that music to do these interstitial old American kind of accoutrements and interstitial pieces in between the songs. But yeah, I love that song. Those added rhythm elements, the authentic country feel, real twang, and it has that outlaw guitar thing again. It just lifts you up. Great choice of guitars for that part. I don't know if it was a 12-string electric or if he doubled it in octaves, but just that simple line that pops out. Best of what, to me, classic American music has to offer, and he did it authentically. Okay, I'm done side one. Does everyone need a break now?
Go for it, man. No, this is right on.
Okay. So, Dead Man's Road. Okay, nothing much to say about this one. I mean, it's an epic Southern Gothic track. They're usually good for one or two of these on each album. Here's an example where I can definitely hear the programming. You can hear the program in the sense it's like, hey, it'd be cool. We can make some on the Wild West if we have this patch, and it's in there. But I think it's effective. What I really liked about this one was the guitar solo. It's one of the first times on the record we hear a really saturated guitar tone, but it's saturated in that kind of, I don't know, Randy Bachman, American Woman kind of thing, where it just very nasally and tubey. And I love his note choices. I never know, though, I'll be honest, when Kiefer's playing the solo or LeBar, like when I watch them live, LeBar's really good at kind of blending in with Tom. I think Tom plays the majority of guitars on a Cinderella record played, but I know Jeff definitely played on those records too. And I think it cut a lot of things together, but whoever did that solo, it was great. I suspect though, it had a Gibson-y kind of Les Paul Jr. or Les Paul feel to it. I'm thinking that it was probably Kiefer playing it. I don't know. We'll find out. Someone's going to tell me, I know. And once again, another fantastic choral background vocal arrangement. It's a really important part of the song. So great epic track. Make Your Own Way. To me, that could have been on Shake Your Money Maker. And it's got a little bit of that Big Brother and the Holding Company. Do, 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 where they play the guitar riff and sing the same thing together. You say that it's over, baby. Like that kind of vibe, right? Kind of classic Stones Faces riff. Yeah, just a really good, another good up-tempo rocker at a time when the album needed it after the big epic. Successful. Electric Love. I didn't love this song when I was younger, but I've come back to it, and now I really love it because the guitar part of the beginning, it's like Tesla. Sometimes they have a part that's just completely disassociated from what the rest of the song becomes. Like they had this cool piece. It's like, we got to put that piece on the record somewhere. Oh, let's put it at the top of this. So it starts off with this really cool kind of, I don't know, Sick as a Dog type kind of cool riff. And then you're into, to me, it's the most overt Aerosmith reference. It's basically the sweet emotion riff, right? Even with the kabata, and it's got that groove and the interlocking guitars. Some nice chord changes in the pre-chorus, opens up with nice, clearly defined major and minor mod moves. Nice slow burn on the vocals. He starts off in his kind of natural register, then gets up into Kiefer world, into that kind of raspy falsetto thing. Love Gone Bad, Heartland rock. They put a little Heartland in this one, kind of Bon Jovi meets John Cougar, kind of Scarecrow meets Cover Me off the Born in the USA album. Good melodic rock with some maturity in the rhythm part, like you hear. Ding, 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 ding.
Side of the thing.
What's that?
That's the CD booklet all unfolded, right? There's all your lyrics and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, I could hear Nils Lofgren or Steve Van Zandt playing on this, with Sam Bora being in there too. And it's got the big kind of Bon Jovi chorus, sing-along chorus. Yeah, good, really good song. And then finally, Winds of Change ends the record. You've got John Paul Jones. Maybe they knew he was coming in. So that, it's got that kind of, it could have been on Zeppelin 3, modal acoustic riff, very Friends or very, I don't know, any number of Zeppelin tunes like that. And I guess, like I said, if you have John Paul Jones, why wouldn't you do a Zepp type acoustic number? Nice melody, beautiful string arrangement. It's a nice end of the album. It caps off the album. Certainly not one of my favorites, but they do it well, and they took probably inspiration from Heart or Zeppelin and did that. So anyway, that's my kind of take on the album. I love it. I think it's his most realized. I feel, with the exception of that Rise record you talked about, like this was a really kind of realized vision of who he is as an artist. And I say Tom because I know the other guys are important in the band, but I always feel that this is Tom's vision, Tom's band. Yeah. I don't know. I think Fred played on this record quite a bit. I think this was one he was in on. Are you seeing anything different?
Yeah, I thought it was just only one song on it. And who is? Yeah, I'm not sure. Or maybe not. I'm not sure because I don't have the other name of who was involved with it. But maybe this is his. But
you know what?
And Kenny Aronoff is back on he's on Still Climbing, which is quite bizarre, right?
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I know Fred's a really good drummer. I've seen him live. He's a talented composer. Like, he's a great musician. Yeah. But even on this record, I hear different feels. Like, man, doesn't sound like the same guy all the time. But I do remember, like, this was the one where he'd kind of earned his stripes at this point. Like,
okay.
Because he was, like, even on those records where Jody Cortez came in and Denny Carmassi and Cozy, like, Tom was right in there in the studio. Or Fred was right in there in the studio being part of the situation, you know, like he was a real team player there.
Yeah, maybe this one is all Fred, but yeah.
And on the tour he played, like I watched the live video of the tour and he's hitting those parts. So anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing analysis. And I would think, you know, I'm going to kind of go through a few ranking things here, but I would suspect that, you know, a great deconstruction like that will raise this album in terms of the estimation of people out there. But we had our Patreon. We did a quick Patreon poll and we had 6 votes for Night Songs and 6 votes for Long Cold Winter, 0 for Heartbreak Station and 0 for Still Climbing. I find them all pretty similar. Even Still Climbing, they haven't really like gone well off the Mandate, even though it's quite a bit later and it's a whole different time. We had Ryan from our Patreon said it was definitely Night Songs for him. Best songs, rocks really hard. It's true. I think it's a pretty heavy album compared to that album cover you got on there. Tim Derling says all 4 albums are pretty consistently good, but Long Cold Winter was my entry point, and The Last Mile was the song that did it for me. Kevin Latham says saw them on the Night Songs tour and thought they were very good. Think Night Songs just edges out Long Cold Winter. John Clauser said I listened to Night Songs a lot and saw them on tour, but lost interest in them pretty quickly afterward. Jamie Laszlo, Long Cold Winter is the only album I keep going back to. The other have their moments, but that one is the most consistent. And Don the Chaldean put in a vote for Night Songs. You know, in terms of rankings out there, Heartbreak Station always comes in third. Return of Rock had Night Songs, Long Cold Winter, Heartbreak Station, Still Climbing. Best Ever Albums had Long Cold Winter first, Night Songs, Heartbreak Station, Still Climbing. Ranker, which is an aggregator, had Night Songs, then Long Cold Winter, Heartbreak, Still, Metal Kingdom, Long, Night, Heartbreak, Still. So I always came in third kind of thing. And in terms of playing live off of this album in terms of set lists, you get all the way down to track number 9, where you get Heartbreak Station as the 9th most played Cinderella song live. Shelter Me is their 10th most played song live. Then you go down to 17 with The More Things Change. Like you say, that would have been a great single, right? First single. And that's the top 30. And even in the top 30, you do get them doing Jumpin' Jack Flash and Sweet Home Alabama. Which they play a lot, but no, that's a really cool analysis of this. I mean, just briefly, where would you kind of position what do you think the character of the first album is? That's kind of what I want to ask you the most, because that's a really interesting, slightly, I would say, the most different from the other 3.
I totally agree. To me, that feels like the fulfilled promise of what late era pre-reunion Aerosmith could have been. The darker, riff heavier. Yeah. Oh, what was it? Lightning Strike? I'm forgetting the name. No, Rockin' a Hard Place. Yeah. Rockin' the Hard Place. Like, to me, it's a better Rockin' the Hard Place. I hate to say that, but I love Rockin' the Hard Place.
Yeah.
No, you know what? I'm going to take it back. I don't know if it's better, but it's a more realized version of the rock side of Rockin' a Hard Place.
Yeah.
Darker riffs. I think Night Songs is very interesting because you have a different guitar player flavor in there. There's that guy Barry Benedetta who I think he played with Wasted. He's a session guy on it, and he adds kind of the more mid to late 80s chops on it. He's like kind of the more, I think Derek Shulman at the time wanted that element in Cinderella. He's a big guy. Like, look at, man, at that time you need a hot guitar player. You need the guy with the pointier headstock, because Tom was playing like old man guitars, right? He's playing Telecasters and Les Pauls. They were not cool guitars to be playing at that point. The pointier, flashier guitars were. So he wanted a contrast, Shulman, as an A&R guy. Yeah. But going back to the question, yeah, I think it's certainly more in line with pop metal. And I think the songs are really strong. I love the record. I still love the record. Mm-hmm. And there's certainly elements of, I think they were a cut above in terms of reinterpreting the Aerosmith thing. Like, they got the dynamics and they got the interplay right. Yeah, I think it's really strong. It's probably, I don't want to say tied. I know it's a cop out, but I tie it with Long Cold Winter in terms of how I enjoy the records.
Yeah.
Long Cold Winter is probably a better record.
Yeah. Cool. Well, all right. Well, that's awesome. So let us know, guys, what you think in the comments below. I thought Sean did an awesome job of this is probably one of the smartest deconstructions of Cinderella you're going to see on the internet, I think. And I hope Tom sees this someday and sees the appreciation and the depth of all this, right?
Well, so, you know what you're going to say? Sorry to interrupt you, Martin. Mm-hmm. I just want to say, I really want to talk to Tom for my book. I have so many questions for him, so I hope he does see this.
Yes, okay.
He's the one guy I've been chasing to talk to, and I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah. Well, I hope that happens as well. Yeah, and looking forward to the book. But yeah, let us know what you guys think. Let us know what your favorite Cinderella album is there. As you know, Marco's got a great thing going with the Patreon things and the panels and that. So yeah, if you want to join us on Patreon, we're doing a lot of cool things there. My favorite thing I think we do on all of Contrarians is this new Dark Horse series thing where we just go talk about one album for an hour kind of thing with a panel. But yeah, thanks again, Sean, for joining us. And everybody go out there and listen to some Cinderella.
Thank you, Martin.